4 employees left Steven Crowder's company. And this was after an NDA that they were asked to sign that required them to, if they broke the NDA, it would cost them $100,000, which, after he complained about the Daily Wire contract, is kind of rich coming from him. But in addition to that,
gag
yes,
order.
absolutely anti-free speech. In addition to that, let me find, here it is. This happened. I'm going to bring it up on screen.
Just need to let Emma know that on this show, we start with the most important news first, and it just goes downhill from here.
This is the most important news.
Yes, this is incredibly important right here. All right. Here you go, Emma. You may read this. Don't read it.
If you're not okay with guys playing sack tap, then this isn't the place for you, the source said Crowder told staff, referring to the act of tapping another person's genitals. After the interrogation of current staffers, 4 employees departed the company. The NDA was insane, said the source close to Crowder. Most employees were scared because of it. Some talked to lawyers about it because they were afraid, but thought that if they didn't sign, that they would incriminate themselves. He was intimidating. Stevens' increasing justification of his workplace sexual behavior between men makes a lot of male employees uncomfortable. He always says it's joking, but it doesn't seem like a joke to anyone anymore. Yeah, when there are repeated instances of you putting your genitalia on your male employees, of you tapping your employees' genitals, of
a requirement.
Employees photos of your genitals, all of this being well sourced by Mediaite, who has multiple sources on each of these stories, although I think the first one was from the New York Post. But I'm forgetting the specifics of that earlier one, but these 2 recent ones are from Mediaite. Yeah.
What's the context for that part where it says they thought that if they didn't sign, that they would incriminate themselves?
Oh, okay. So I can't remember if they were the one that also revealed this story, but about 4 or 5 different staffers under anonymity came forward to talk about how the work environment with Steven Crowder is him consistently exposing his genitals, asking other people for drugs and/or supplying them with drugs, usually prescription opiates and amphetamines and stuff like that. And obviously all the things you've already heard, as in making them go into very uncomfortable sexual situations and sketches. He's like, let's own the libs by greasing you up with garlic butter and things like that. When they came out, he apparently held a big meeting where he didn't want any more leaks. And so he's like, you got to sign this NDA. And now four people have quit over this because they don't want to have to sign this.
So they didn't sign. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably leave too if I was suddenly asked to sign an NDA. Like that. Jeez.
Well, usually those are included at some of these media companies, and they're maybe a little bit more buttoned up at the outset of their employment contract. But Steven made it incredibly onerous with the $100K, so much so, I think a lot of lawyers would look at that and say that's too, well, I mean, I don't know what they're in Texas, so that might be difficult, but that's too onerous of a contract between employee and employer. But it is interesting because, you'd be surprised at how many media organizations, even ones that, say they're on the left, use NDAs to make it so that their employees are unable to say bad things about them in the press. And
Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and even bigger places too. It's so standard practice at media organizations, where you're supposed to be in search of the truth. I would love to see a conversation between Sam and my other colleagues where he would try to get us to sign an NDA. It would be laughable. I mean, it's just, I think it's pretty, it shows a lack of respect for your employees, but that is par for the course with Crowder, who is harassing them and doing so in this deeply repressed way that we've always speculated about, obviously. Because of how virulently homophobic he is, but he seems to always be finding a way to either show his genitals to a man or touch another man's genitals. And to be honest, I don't think it's unfair to point that out at this point.
Yeah. I also don't think an NDA would cover that, right? You can't. An NDA does not cover illegal activity. If you are being essentially groped, if your genitals are being touched at work against your will, I don't think the NDA would cover that. So
for all we know, the sack tapping over at the lateral Crowder is the secret sauce that makes the show so popular. So we can't let that out of We can't let the other media organizations know that if they all start
Crowder
sack
gains
tapping.
power. Crowder
probably the right
gains power with
passage.
every
It's
sack
like-
tap.
Yeah, it's probably like crossing the burning sands over there, but like, you know, to sit with Crowder and things like that. But I feel like when people hear NDA, they automatically think I can't say anything by law or whatever the case may be. So it already puts a fear in people. I remember working somewhere, can't say, but with a big presence in this space, and made me sign an NDA. And for about a year after that, because I mean, if anybody knows me, I'm not one who, how Ole says, minces words. So if I see something that's problematic, I'm going to call it out. You say that you're somebody who is for the left or whatever the case may be, or for the people, child. And I call it out because there was a certain incident. I didn't like it. And it was all in the media and I didn't like it. And I'm like, I'm working for this person. So I called it out. Honey, after I left, he was like, you know, you signed an NDA, you can't say anything, or you can't do anything. So I went to go talk to some legal colleagues, and they were like, girl, no, there were things that were done that you can actually have a conversation about. So I had a conversation about it. But what's scary is when these people are in these spaces and they have a lot of power, what they can do, you talk about it, but you're just literally probably like a small fry to a giant. And so sometimes it's like they'll blacklist you, or they'll make sure that people don't work with you, or stuff. They'll put fear in you in a way. But that's what that NDA is for, to protect themselves, put fear in you. And if you do say something, they know people that you may not know and will kind of like scare you. So, and hold your job and stuff. But yeah, but that's the thing that happens.
It's predatory because a lot of people don't know if the NDA that they signed is even enforceable, because it might not be legally enforceable. But how are you supposed to know as the lay person? And funny story, I don't know if David remembers this, but a couple of years ago, there was going to be this formation of this progressive news network. And me and David were part of this, and they wanted us to sign NDAs. Me and David both talked about this, and we're like,
oh, that's right. Yeah. We were like, no, that's not. No, I'm not doing this.
That was like a non-starter for us. There was going to be
I forgot about that completely. Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't even remember what the name of it was, but there was going to be this massive progressive network with a bunch of big content creators. And at the start, they wanted us to sign NDAs. We refused. Most of us refused. And then they ended up factionalizing and forming two different organizations. And then one of them just kind of like, and then the other started and then like died. So it's a good thing we didn't sign the NDA.
Oh my gosh, I'm so curious now. What you
so am I. I was like, I think I know, but I don't know if I know.
Send me a DM. But no.
So it was
not
people
much
from
else
the
to
Bernie
it.
campaign, basically, right? Like it was one of the people that worked within Bernie that did media or something in Bernie's campaign.
Yeah,
their
right.
husband was a CEO of a media company, like a distribution center, that wanted to get this network on Hulu and all these different networks and stuff like that.
A lot of promises, that's for sure.
Lots of promises. It sounded really great. But that NDA, I don't give a fuck what you're offering me. Not going to sign it. So
wow.
Yeah. These are very, very bad, very predatory. But I have to go back to the Crowder thing, because I know people are going, there's this whole groomer narrative currently. And yes, he is bisexual, obviously, likely also suffers from gender dysphoria. But this is not an LGBTQ thing, I promise you. He does not represent all bisexual guys. If somebody in the workplace tried to do a sack tap on me, I would fucking slap them, because that's such
out of my personal space.
Right. It's such a violation.
Sexual harassment. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's completely unacceptable.
Well, he's their boss.
Right.
Their boss. And you got to say that, like, apparently a lot of the people that go to work for him, not all, but you see this with someone like Tim Pool as well. They bring in people who are fans and who might be younger, who are susceptible to accepting lower wages and accepting this kind of treatment. That is like the predatory element, of course, Mike, that you're talking about right there. And people who are in media who don't have principles like those guys, I mean, they get off on the power. They get off. That's mostly why they're in this industry, is like Crowder is overcompensating for years and years of like feeling a certain way about himself, whether when he was a child actor. I hate to psychoanalyze him, but actually I don't, because it's fun, and he's a terrible guy, and he wants to exert control and power whether it's in his marriage, whether it's which is now over, whether it's in his workplace, or whether it's over his audience. Like, that is the kind of person that's attracted to being this kind of figure on the right, especially when he's doing things like, I mean, the dude reenacted the George Floyd murder as like a comedy sketch. He is a terrible human being. And the only reason I think it's just, I'm pointing out the internalized homophobia element, Mike, and you can disagree with me if you want, but I just think it's and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but it's just notable, just given how virulently transphobic and homophobic he is, that there's this almost like frenetic, frantic desire to go as far ahead of those kinds of things as possible while also dressing up. And it's just a sketch.
It's what's really interesting about him is that he's obviously been at the front lines for a long time of the people saying that all drag queens are groomers, all trans people are pedophiles, all gay people are pedophiles, and yet some of his early sketches are him dressing in drag and one of his employees.
Early sketches.
The two of the early
sketches. Still to this day, the dude's doing it.
Well, yeah, that as well. But this one is so striking. Like, he would make out with someone who worked for him, and then there's video footage that he uploaded of that person stroking the outside of his genitalia while there are children present, right? Like, there's lots of kids you can spot in the audience. That's the exact activity that he says is like, this is pedophiles, this is grooming, you know? One for one.
I mean, the way that he expresses his internalized homophobia is the way that I did the same thing when I was like 14. And then, you know, I got a little bit older, like 16, 17, and I'm like, okay, I think that this is one of those Doubt protest too much situations. I'm being a little bit obvious. Not that I had like come out to myself and I'm like, oh, they're never going to know. But it's just like, you know, you kind of like, you try to double down and be like, no, I'm straight. But yeah, he's just, I think that maybe he thinks that if he's just cool with like, you know, the casual, you know, grabbing men's genitals who he works with, that'll throw off the scent because he just is so comfortable with his sexuality, he doesn't care. When it's like, brother, look at the photographs of you in drag. Like, you're like, you love it. You're sashaying around.
You're happy.
You feel comfortable.
It feels like his energy has to go somewhere. Like, it feels like that energy has to go and so he's gonna act like a 12-year-old boy with repressed sexual urges.
It's in the people who abuse power often and have these hidden desires and things like that. They're going to be, like you said, predatory where they're working. They're going to abuse those people in any way, shape, or form. And those repressed desires, those things that he's been keeping in him and denouncing, you know, to stay true to his side of things. The people who are working for these people are going to get abused, and they're going to think, and imagine if I lose this job, if I lose this, or what, they put fear in those people. So they'll take it. They'll do these things just to keep their job or just to make sure that they're good. The relationship with their boss is good because they don't want any issues. There's a fear there. And these people always abuse power. You can look at him and see that he's that kind of person. And they keep him in the space for so long. So it's almost like that's just how he is. I bet you that's how people are. That's just how he is. That's just it. And that's also problematic too.
Yeah, that's his sense of humor. That's just his personality. He doesn't mean anything by it. He's not trying to make you uncomfortable. Like all these things to make it seem better and to sanitize it, when in actuality, like this is literally just like not just sexual harassment, but sexual assault of your own employees, which again, the power dynamic makes it so much worse.
Yeah, putting your balls on someone else's face doesn't matter like who they are. You're sexually harassing them, even if you're like, oh, this is just ball lick. It's a game we play as gentlemen, you know, just a couple good old boys slapping each other with their ball sacks.
Oh yeah,
like, no, you know, like
yeah, bro, it'd be so funny if we licked each other's cocks. Like, oh, that'd be so funny.
Jesus Christ!
Like,
I thought we got explicit enough.
Just a prank, bro. Yeah, just a prank. What?
Bro, what if we fucked really fast? LOL.
Yeah. Why do we own the libs by fucking each other?
They're gonna be so triggered.
Anyways, I wanted to bring this up just to show you that whatever's going on with, I mean, this is not benefiting him at all. I bet you he is kicking himself silly that he did not take that Daily Wire contract for $50 million because his support has dropped considerably since he launched on Rumble. And I'm sure he's making enough money, right? Because he still, he still has his mug club or the hell it is.
Well, Rumble's paying him too.
Money coming in. And Rumble's paying him on top of that. So that's fair. I'm not sure how much they're paying him. So maybe they're paying him more than Daily Wire. I don't know. But
doubtful.
I doubt that. But they're probably paying him a good amount of money. I mean,
certainly a disgusting amount.
They're
amount
paying,
that would make you revolted to see.
I mean, it's pretty clear though that it's not like this isn't like not to take away the credit of the failing Louder with Crowder show from Steven Crowder, but I think this is also a broader thing for all of these people looking for an alternative to YouTube should take a look at. This isn't like just unique to Crowder. I'm going to make this. I don't have the data in front of me, but I'm gonna make a very. I'm sure this is correct. That obviously pull that chart up again. Obviously, there was some interest in the Louder with Crowder show when it went to Rumble. Then clearly there might have been an event or two that gave it some
I will
peak
tell
viewership.
you what those events were.
Oh, please go ahead.
The first one I believe is the feud with Candace Owens.
Okay,
right. The feud. And then I think that second spike is after his divorce. Like,
it is.
After that video came out of him trying to force his pregnant wife, who's like almost 9 months pregnant with their twins, to walk their dogs while he sat on his ass smoking a cigar. And then also said that she had to feed the dogs their medicine, even though she worried it was toxic to her. As he said, that do your wifely duties. That's the kind of guy Steven is. So,
and she couldn't leave the house, and they have one car for some reason, even though he's a millionaire, which is bizarre.
That is.
And you guys brought that to my attention last show about
Red flag,
Sam, and that's crazy. I think and people praise these type of people. That's the type of man. I mean, a man's man. Okay, and that's exactly what people. That's what a lot of the people on the right, and even I would say some people who are just really people who are classic, they would think that this is like she needs to do her wifely duties. She's pregnant. There's nothing wrong with her. And that type of person, see, this person is dangerous. Not only are they dangerous in the workspace, at home, and these are the people that people are really paying to see. They are taking their word as Bible verses, putting it up on the wall, praising these people. And it becomes very problematic and dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Right. It was a man's man.
I will never surrender even a single inch of ground to a pitchfork mob.
You never cave to the mob.
We will never bow to the mob. Ever. No matter what.
Do you see the final expression of cancel culture in terrorist groups like